Okay, so I got this very polite comment on my YouTube video recently on my iPhone 6s unboxing, and it kind of triggered me a bit. Not because I was mad, but because I kind of wanted to explain what this channel was about. I've never done a channel trailer, and I've never really explained why I make these YouTube videos, so I thought I'd do a very short video on why I cover the older phones and not the maybe lower end, newer ones. Okay, so as a car enthusiast myself, I can give this a decent analogy. It's like someone buying a 2002 Bug Eye WRX versus a base model 2017 Impreza. So on the one hand, on the WRX, you're getting more power, you're getting more grunt, a more fiery temper, you're getting that four-wheel drive, and you may lose out on some features such as Bluetooth on board, or maybe some extra safety features, and in return, you get something with more power, more grunt, and something that turns heads and makes other car enthusiasts respect you just that little bit more than the other drivers on the road. And it's very similar when it comes to the phones. So an example, an actual real-world example I can give is that I could go out and buy a £350 Galaxy A5 from 2017. And yes, that's a modern phone, and it's fairly mid-range, so you know it fits within the price criteria, and it's got 3GB of RAM, and because it's got a low-end CPU, even though it's got a 16 megapixel camera, it can only shoot 1080p video, and it's got a 1080p AMOLED screen. Or for that same money, I could go for an S7, which has arguably one of the best screens in any phone of that era, has a way better camera with the ability to shoot UHD video at 30 FPS and 240 slow motion as well at 720p. And I don't know about you, but I know exactly which one I'd pick. I'd take the S7 every day of the week. It's more fiery, it's more powerful, it's got a way better screen, better camera, and costs less money. So in that kind of respect, why would you go for the more modern and lower end phones? There's also something just kind of more interesting about buying an old phone and seeing how it compares to when it first came out, especially with the slightly older phones like the 4 or 5 year old phones. Back then they were cutting edge, state of the art, and now they're not. So it's kind of interesting to compare how everything's changed. If screens got better, if cameras got better, of course they have, but in which ways, resolution or screen technology. And it's really interesting to see. For example, the Galaxy series, all the way from the Galaxy, the original Samsung Galaxy S, have had AMOLED screens, which is something crazy because you think of OLED, you think of modern technology, you don't think of older phones. Of course, the S1, the S2, the S3, all the way up to the S8 all have AMOLED screens, which is really interesting. Also, there's something interesting about getting an old phone, maybe seeing that it doesn't quite work very well. You know, it's like a project car, and you put some money into it. You might buy a new outer shell to make it look brand new. You might buy a new battery for it and fit that to make it seem brand new as well. And you might install some custom software. My good friend Kelsey, who has provided 2 or 3 phones for this channel, has really done a number on his home screen, and I'll put a photo on screen at some point, where he's really customized his phone, and I think it's really cool that you can do that. And of course, he bought the 6P, and that's not a brand new phone. That's not a Pixel or a Pixel 2. It's a slightly older phone, but it caters to him. Also, there's just kind of more interesting phones out there. Most phones nowadays are all the same. They've all got Infinity Edge. They've all got 12 megapixel cameras. They can all shoot 4K video. They've all got OLED screens. It's nice to go back to those other phones that are different. You know, the ones in the IPS era, where we were all rocking IPS screens. Or the 16 megapixel cameras, just before we found the good middle ground of 12 in between 8 and 16. So there's some really interesting things to come out of these videos, and maybe it's not to you guys. Maybe you guys aren't that interested. I know a lot of you are, but maybe some of you aren't, but it does to me. And at the end of the day, I'm an 18-year-old kid who's pulling every penny out of his pocket to make YouTube videos and to buy phones. I don't get sent anything, as I've mentioned several times. And it means that, yes, it's a hobby for me. I love interacting with you guys, and I do provide videos on where I can, where you guys request. But what you guys don't realize is, yes, okay, so the modern CPUs might still be 8-core, they might still be 6-core, or even quad-core, high-end quad-core. They might have 4GB of RAM, great. But the system on the chips actually do make changes to the rest of the device. That system on a chip might not support QHD screens. It might not support outputting to anything higher than 1080p, and a lot of low-end system on the chips do not support shooting any higher than 1080p video, even on a rear camera with 16 or 12 megapixels. So there is a big difference. It's not just me going, oh, well, the modern phones are boring, because they are boring, but they also have a lot of limitations and are often more expensive than a phone that has better features. For example, one more example before I get onto the final piece of this video, the LG G3. A phone you can pick up for £80. £80 used, or brand new for maybe 120, although I wouldn't buy brand new because it's an old phone. Why would you do that? Anyway, you could buy a new battery for it for like, what, £10, and maybe throw a new case on it for like a £5, and you've got yourself a phone with a QHD screen, a 13 megapixel camera that can shoot UHD video, a gorgeous design that I still think works really well to date with the rear buttons, and you're getting that for £100 or less. Of course, you can install your own custom software on there, make it your own. I really do feel like these older phones are way better than the modern counterparts. In the way, of course, of the lower end modern phones. Of course, comparing a G3 to a G6, completely different, but maybe comparing a G3 to, I don't know what low end LG phones are out there right now, but they're probably not that good. And the one final thing I wanted to say about it is, for me, it's just plain cheaper to do it a lot of the time. Modern mid-range to low-end phones cost more than maybe even 2-year-old high-end phones. And because, like I said, I pay for these things, it needs to be kind of cheap. So the older high-end stuff is just plain more accessible to me. And so it's all down to me, and that's why I've got to spend my money on these phones. Anyway guys, hopefully you've got a little bit more of an insight as to what this channel is about. Maybe I'll do a channel trailer in the near future, but for right now I'm gonna head off. So please do like this video if you like it, dislike it if you disliked it, and please do tell me in the comments what you feel about this. Maybe you do want to see modern phones. I'm sorry, it's very unlikely I'm going to get to those, and if I do, it will definitely be once I've gained more subscribers and I can get more ad revenue to be able to pay for those phones, because apart from this, right now I have no other income. Again, I've been Ryan Thomas. Please do subscribe if you're new around here, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.